The wedding was still a haze of flowers and applause when they showed up, my sister grinning like a thief in daylight, my father standing behind her like a conquering general. I was barely 2 days into my new marriage, still unpacking gifts, still learning how to breathe in the word wife. They didn't even knock. My sister marched right into the living room, spreading out crisp legal papers with an entitled flourish. "Good news," she sang, syrupy sweet. "We signed a house into my name. Mom said you'd agree. My name is Maya. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever watched the people you trust try to steal your soul with a smile?" I looked at them, the ink on their so-called agreement still damp, my heartbeat slow and steady. My father cleared his throat, feigning gentleness. "It's better this way," he offered. "You have a husband now. Let your sister keep the family property safe." Safe. That word burned. They thought I was a puppet, strings for them to tug whenever they hungered. But they didn't know the whole truth. The $1.3 million estate I'd kept hidden for years, a secret I guarded like a living heartbeat. Just in case. I stood, calm as winter frost. "I never said yes," I told them, voice even. My sister's smile faltered, confusion flickering across her carefully painted face. "Mom said you would agree." I tilted my head, letting them see the line they'd crossed. "Well," I said, "Mom was wrong." My father's face darkened, pride turning to rage. "This is family business." I stepped closer, close enough to watch the shock gather in his eyes. "That house is legally mine," I reminded him. "And so is everything that comes with it." That night, I called the bank, every word like steel. "Review everything," I ordered. "I want every signature, every clause, every hidden move they tried to bury." The banker listened, crisp and professional. "Understood." Sleep barely touched me. I lay awake, heartbeat steady, eyes wide, 1,000 thoughts slicing through the dark. By morning, they returned. No confidence. No sweet rehearsed speeches. Just shock and cardboard boxes clutched to their chests, like refugees from a kingdom that was never theirs to rule. Because they'd tried to steal my life. And I was done letting them write my story. The front door swung open with a hollow thud. My sister stepped in first, hair tangled, face pale, clinging to a cardboard box like it was her last breath. My father followed, shoulders hunched, rage barely hidden under a thin veil of shame. Their empire had crumbled overnight. I stood in the hallway, calm as a loaded weapon, arms crossed, eyes steady. "Bank said the signatures were fake," I told them flatly. "And a fraud investigation is now active." My sister's mouth fell open, trembling. "Maya, we're family," she croaked. "We didn't mean to." I laughed, raw and sharp, slicing through her excuses. "You signed my house into your name, without even asking me. You meant every bit of it." She looked away, no defense left. My father stepped forward, voice cracking, hands shaking. "We just wanted to protect you. That estate is too much for one person to manage." My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. "I managed it just fine until you tried to steal it." They shifted uncomfortably, the boxes growing heavier in their hands. "You thought I would notice?" I demanded. "Thought you could swallow a $1.3 million estate in the dark?" Silence. They stood there, pitiful, waiting for me to cave. The way I always had, patching up their chaos, forgiving their betrayals, pretending it was all love. But not this time. I stepped closer, letting the chill in my voice land like a verdict. "You have 5 minutes to get out of my house." My sister flinched, a tear rolling down her cheek. "Maya, please. We don't have anywhere else to go." I met her eyes, steady and merciless. "You should have thought of that before you tried to steal everything I built." My father tried one last push. "We're your blood," he whispered. I shook my head slowly. Blood doesn't excuse theft. They stood there frozen, hope draining from their faces, realization crashing over them. I opened the door wider. "Out," I repeated, each letter heavy as stone. They shuffled through like ghosts, clutching their boxes, leaving behind the dreams they'd tried to hijack. I shut the door with a final, clean snap, the sound echoing like freedom through the halls of my home. Because this time I chose myself. And I would never let them rewrite that choice again. The echo of the door slamming shut felt like the end of a war. I stood there, forehead pressed to the wood, breathing steady, letting the silence flood through me like a blessing. For so long, I'd been the dutiful daughter, the forgiving sister, the woman who patched every hole they tore through my life. But watching them carry those cardboard boxes out felt like cutting the last chain off my ankles. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The banker. "Maya," he said calmly, "the paperwork is locked down. Your estate is secure. And your family's attempt has been formally flagged." I closed my eyes, relief hitting me so hard, I almost stumbled. "Thank you," I whispered. "Any time," he replied. "You did the right thing." I hung up, letting those words circle in my mind like a shield. You did the right thing. My sister's voice still haunted me, clinging to the corners of my thoughts. We're family. Mom said you'd agree.
No.
They'd never asked. They'd taken. I walked through the house, running my hands across the walls, the kitchen counter, the staircase. All mine. Paid with my sweat, my sleepless nights, my sacrifices they never saw. And they thought they could just sign it away. The rage flickered again, but this time it didn't swallow me. It sharpened me. Hours later, I stood on the front porch as the sun dipped behind the hills. My husband pulled into the driveway, stepping out with cautious eyes. "Everything all right?" I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I handled it." He walked up and wrapped me in his arms, the first hug that didn't feel like a demand. Just warmth. Just respect. "They'll come back," he warned softly. "I know," I said. He paused, reading the steel behind my calm. And I looked out over the street, where their footprints were still fresh on the sidewalk. "They'll leave disappointed," I answered. He smiled, pride flashing behind his relief. That night, I slept in my own bed, under my own roof, no signatures threatening my peace, no fake agreements waiting to gut me. Because from now on, the only person who signed away my life was me. And I would never sign it over to their greed again. The following morning felt like breathing in fresh air after years underwater. Sunlight poured through my windows, touching every corner of the home they'd tried to steal. My home, carved from every overtime shift, every dream they called foolish. I brewed my coffee slowly, grounding myself, steadying my pulse. Halfway through my first sip, there was a hard knock at the door. I didn't flinch. I opened it to find them again. My sister, red-eyed and hollow, my father behind her, jaw set like stone. They'd left the boxes in their car, I noticed. Like they thought they might still get back inside. "Maya," my sister whispered, voice raw, "you can't just throw us away." I met her eyes, unblinking. "You forged my signature." Her mouth trembled. "We only wanted to keep the property in the family." I laughed, cold and sharp. "You mean in your name?" My father stepped forward, trying to reclaim the authority he'd lost. "Maya, we raised you. We fed you. That house belongs to all of us." I felt something ancient break loose in my chest, a truth I'd swallowed since childhood. "No," I told him clearly. "You raised me to believe I owed you everything. That's not the same as love." His face turned to stone. My sister reached for me, tears spilling. "Please, Maya, Mom is devastated." I cut her off, calm as a scalpel. Mom wanted to erase me the minute she thought I was inconvenient. Don't talk to me about her heartbreak. The driveway fell quiet, even the birds holding their breath. My sister's shoulders sagged, the last spark of entitlement flickering out. "We don't have anywhere to go," she finally admitted, voice cracking. I stepped back, the edge of the door in my grip like a shield. "Then find a way." I did. My father looked at me as if he'd seen a stranger. I suppose he had. Because I was no longer the daughter who bowed. No longer the sister who swallowed every wound. I was the woman who built a life they couldn't steal, and who would defend it with fire if she had to. I closed the door, slow and final. This house was mine, and no one was ever going to rewrite that story again. I leaned against the closed door, breathing in the quiet like a prayer. Their voices still echoed outside, muffled, desperate, but they couldn't touch me anymore. I walked through each room, letting the familiar walls remind me whose sweat and sacrifice had paid for them. Every tile, every hinge, every sunbeam belonged to me. No forged signature could ever rewrite that. My phone buzzed a few minutes later. My mother, of course. The message was cold, manipulative. "We're disappointed in you. Family is supposed to share." I stared at those words, heat rising in my chest. Family is supposed to share. I'd shared. I'd shared everything. Money.
Time. Love.
Forgiveness. And they'd sign my future away behind my back, then showed up to collect it with a smile. I typed back, my hands steady. "Family doesn't forge documents."
Goodbye.
Then I blocked her number, letting the silence reclaim its power. Later, I stepped outside to breathe, feeling the sharp wind on my skin. Across the street, I saw their car finally drive away, weighed down by those same sad boxes. They would find somewhere else to crash, someone else to drain, but not me. I was done. My husband came out to join me, slipping an arm around my waist. "You okay?" I nodded, leaning into him. "Better than okay," I said. "I'm finally free." He smiled, brushing a kiss against my temple. "I'm proud of you." I let that sink in, warm and solid, because there was no applause for what I'd done, no cheering crowd, no witnesses. Just me, finally standing up for my own worth. And that was enough. As we went back inside, I turned one last time to look at the driveway, empty now. I didn't hate them, but I would never again let them cut into my life and call it love. That was over. And what waited ahead, a future built on my own name, my own dreams, was finally mine to protect. The weekend settled in like a gentle storm, quiet but charged with 1,000 thoughts. I cleaned the kitchen in slow circles, letting the smell of fresh coffee chase away the shadows still clinging to the corners of my mind. My phone stayed silent, no calls, no texts. A strange relief, like a wound finally allowed to breathe. I wandered upstairs to the spare bedroom, the one they'd tried to claim for my sister. Its walls stood untouched, paint perfect, floor spotless. Ready for my future, my own children one day, or an office, or whatever I chose. No one else's name was going to be stamped over it. Ever. I sat on the bed, tracing the pattern in the comforter, thinking of all the times they'd said "you owe us." I owed them nothing. I owed the girl I'd once been. The one who stayed up nights working, budgeting, fighting to survive, everything. The doorbell rang suddenly, sharp and unexpected. My stomach tightened. When I opened it, Mark, my cousin, my quiet shield, stood there, hands in his pockets, watching me carefully. "They're gone," he said. "Your dad called the bank, tried to contest the fraud report. It didn't work." A rush of vindication, sweet and bitter, filled my lungs. "Thanks for telling me," I breathed. Mark nodded. "They're saying you turned your back on family," he added carefully. I let out a hollow laugh. "They turned their back on me the moment they forged my name." His eyes softened, respect shining through. "You did the right thing." Those words wrapped around me, a balm I didn't even know I needed. I nodded, swallowing the last of the ache. "Yeah," I whispered. "I did." Mark squeezed my shoulder before leaving. "Call me if they show up again," he said. "I will," I promised. As he left, I looked around my entryway, the warm wood floors, the framed art, the little details that felt so mine. They'd tried to rewrite my legacy. They'd failed. And I would guard this piece like a warrior until the day I took my last breath. Because they could call me heartless. They could call me selfish. But they would never again call me theirs. The days turned calm, a hush finally settling over the walls they'd tried to steal. I moved through my home like someone meeting an old friend again, rediscovering every shelf, every corner, every quiet moment that belonged to me alone. No more threats. No more fake signatures. No more puppeteering smiles. Just me. I checked the locks before bed that night, a habit I'd never needed before. Somehow it felt like a declaration. This place is mine. No one crosses that line again. My husband sat beside me, scrolling through his phone. They really haven't called? He asked, disbelief in his voice. Blocked. I reminded him, calm. If they want to talk, they can talk to the lawyer. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. You're fierce, Maya. I let the words sink in. Unfamiliar, but perfect.
Fierce.
I'd never been allowed that. Always expected to be soft, obedient, forgiving. But fierce felt right. I laid my head on his shoulder, breathing in the quiet. They might try again, he warned gently. I know, I said, steady as stone. And they'll fail. The next day, I went through the safe, double-checking every title, every paper, making sure each one bore my name alone. I filed them carefully, line by line, a silent promise to the woman I'd become. No one would rewrite me. No one would sign away my life. As the afternoon sun pooled across my living room, warm and forgiving, I felt something new take root. Pride. I had not let them break me. I had not let them steal me. And no matter what they said at their next family gathering, no matter what gossip they spun, I would hold the truth in my hands like a shield. They came for my house. They came for my dreams. And I stopped them cold. That was the story I would tell myself every single day until the world forgot their names. Because I had finally remembered my own. Morning came soft and gold, streaming through windows that no one could ever sign away again. I stood at my front door, coffee in hand, breathing in a peace I had bled for, fought for, earned. No more footsteps of thieves in the hallway. No more sweet-talking betrayals dressed as family love. Just my home, quiet and safe. My husband appeared beside me, wrapping an arm around my waist. You okay?
I smiled, honest.
Yeah, I said. I really am. My phone stayed silent, no new messages, no forced apologies, no guilt trips waiting in ambush. Only calm. I stepped into the kitchen, running my fingertips along the counters, thinking of the woman I used to be. The woman who would have folded, who would have signed away everything just to keep the peace.
She was gone.
In her place stood a woman who'd said no, who defended herself, who'd refused to be rewritten. Mark texted me later that day. They moved out of state. Couldn't handle the shame. I read it twice, letting the words settle. It didn't bring me joy, exactly, but it brought closure. They moved out of state. They could run, blame, cry, but they could never change what I'd built. Or who I had become. As evening fell, I stood in the doorway one last time, looking out at the driveway they once thought they owned. And I felt nothing. No hate. No guilt. No pity. Just freedom. I closed the door, locking it with a slow, deliberate click that felt like a final chapter. This was my house. My life. My name. And no one would ever sign it away again. Because I had finally learned. No one can steal what you refuse to surrender.